Okay, we're going to have a notice of public hearing.
Oh, wait,
Hold on,
wait, 1
hold on.
second.
You didn't say
Welcome.
who's here.
Welcome to the Wareham Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, August 19th. We have David Hall, Jim Smith, Alyssa Hurd, Sandy Slavin, and soon-to-be associates Carol Mallison and Ron Bessie. They were appointed, but I don't think they swore in until tomorrow, but welcome. So we're up. Now you can go.
Now we're of a notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held on Wednesday, August 19th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Daniel Brossi, P.O. Box 829, Onset, Mass. 02558, to construct an addition located on Assessor's Map 11, Lot 267, 43 Riverside Drive, Onset, Mass.
Thank you. Is anybody on the line that wants to speak for this, that represents this project?
Yeah, this is Dan Brossi. I'm on the line. Can you hear me?
Okay, Dan, thank you. Mr. Bichette will read to the project, then you can add any comments you'd like to. Okay.
Okay, this project site is at 43 Riverside Drive in Onset, and the project involves the construction of an addition within the buffer zone to a coastal dune. A 7 by 21 foot L-shaped addition is proposed. Hold on 1 second here. Let's see.
Well, you bring, isn't this up next to one we just approved?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
So sorry about that. So yes, a 7 by 21 foot L-shaped addition is proposed to be constructed. And this is just within the buffer zone, approximately 90 feet from the coastal dune, which is on the other side of the street from where the house exists. The addition is proposed to be constructed on sonotube footings. There's no grade changes proposed as part of this project. Erosion control barrier will be placed between the work and the street. So I would recommend the approval of this project with a negative determination number 3.
Dan, is there anything you'd like to add to that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when he says 7 by 21, the additions is actually, it's a bump out on 2 sides of the house, 7 feet forward and 7 feet to the right towards my neighbor, Jimmy Enos. So it's not as, 721 sounds pretty big, but basically I'm moving the sides out 7 feet on 2 sides. Basically.
Okay, anything else? I'll ask the commission members. What we have here, Jim, any questions? I think we lost Jim. Nope. Okay, Alyssa, any questions?
I have a question for David. Does this have to be raised up at all? Is it that close to the ocean that it should be raised up, or is this just fine the way it is?
No, it'll be fine the way it is where it's located because it's not in the flood zone at that point.
Thank you. No other questions.
David.
I do have a question. David, you mentioned a negative 3. What does that mean?
That's just the designation on the formal decision, which states that the project does not need to have any further permitting from the commission.
Okay, that's a good thing then. It's not negative, it's positive. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
David, any question?
No comment. No.
Is Jim back online?
I think so.
Yeah,
Would
right here.
you have any questions?
No.
Ron, any question?
No.
Carol?
Sandy?
Yes.
No. Okay, I have a question, and that is, David, doesn't also a negative 3 mean that it's not in the resource area but it is in the buffer zone.
That's correct. Yep.
That's what it really means.
Right. And that we're not going to require any further
Exactly.
permitting, but yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Is there?
We're losing you, Sandy.
I'm hearing none. Oh, sorry.
We didn't hear you. What was
Is there
that?
anybody online that has a question or a comment on this project? And I've got Alan's good iPad. Maybe he sabotaged it. Well,
Should we move to close the hearing?
yes, please.
Done.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a second by Jim. All in favor. Jim,
Aye.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, the hearing is closed.
I move to accept the project with a -3 determination and to check with David before it starts.
Okay, I have a motion for a -3. I
Second.
have a second. All in favor. Jim,
Aye.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, it's been approved. And before you start work, Dan, before you start work, please check with Mr. Bichette and you're all set, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Can we keep going?
Yes, please.
Okay, notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, August 19th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Eileen Pearson, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, to replace and expand decks located on Assessor's Map 34, Lot 7A, 8B, 67 Towhee Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Who's here for the project?
From GAF.
Hi, Bill. Okay, Mr. Bichette?
Yeah, so this project site is at 67 Towhee Road, and the project involves the expansion of decks in the buffer zone to a coastal bank at this site. An existing deck is to be expanded into a 14 by 26 foot deck. Currently, it's only about 8 feet wide, and it's also proposed to put a patio below the proposed deck expansion with permeable pavers. There's also a smaller deck that is going to be enlarged from 4.2 feet wide to 5.6 feet wide on the side of the structure. That smaller one is in an area that's already got some disturbance under it, so that to me is not necessarily an issue because it's already on disturbed area. The larger deck, though, is being expanded within the 30-foot no activity zone. So I do have to point that issue out and recommend that it be expanded only to what's currently disturbed under that area. So that's really the comment I have. I don't have a problem with the decks being reconstructed, but the expansion in the 30-foot no activity zone is something I have to point out to the commission and recommend against.
Anything else?
Nothing else at this point.
Bill?
Yeah, with respect to that existing deck, the landform that's immediately outside the footprint of the existing deck, that, from a site inspection, you would look at that, and it's a man-made landform, which I understand still could qualify as
I can't understand you, Bill. Can you try again?
Yeah, we're not hearing your audio, Bill. I mean, we're hearing it, but it's a little choppy and broken up. So I'm not sure if there's something wrong with your mic or what.
I moved some paper. Is this any better?
No.
Let me click on.
Why don't you try backing away from it a bit?
Is that better?
That's a little better.
Well, immediately south of the existing deck, there's an elevated piece of land there. That land looks like it took the shape of an embankment from depositing excavated material when the house was originally constructed. It looks to me that, you know, that area there has been raised just for the convenience of accessing in and out of that house and in what have you. So we thought that it would be appropriate to work in that area since the land really reflects an impervious surface at that location. If one were to go out there and walk that, it's highly compacted fill material that's immediately adjacent to the existing patio that exists down there. And you know, from a performance standard with storm damage prevention, you know, I don't think that bank really provides too much in the lines of a vertical buffer to storm damage prevention. I think that, you know, if that fill hadn't been placed there, we'd certainly be likely to be under, you know, the requirement of that coastal bank, and the coastal bank would have been, you know, substantially further down slope to the south. I mean, a site inspection would show that that's really rolling terrain down there. There's no real distinct coastal bank. There's probably 600 or 700 feet of landscaped area, lawn area, let's call it, that runs down to a bordering vegetated wetland or a salt marsh or whatever it might be that's closer to the water's edge. But you know, I don't think that really there's a performance standard that bank is subject to. It's not a sediment source to the beach, and it's outside. It's in a zone X. It's outside of the coastal flood zone. So, you know, from a storm damage prevention point of view, it's certainly outside the area. It just qualifies as a coastal bank by virtue of applying the DEP guidance document to it in making that determination. So, you know, we thought that it might be one of those instances where, you know, that 30-foot no activity zone on a fully developed lot, the way the lot's developed, you can see that line goes right through the house the way it exists there today. It reflects 200 square feet on 4.15 acres, which is, you know, truly de minimis in nature as far as an alteration of bank or in that no activity zone. And, you know, we would just like consideration to be given to the facts of the situation and the way the structure is placed on the lot and what we really have for resource area, and how that resource area doesn't really perform any substantial function. I mean, it is in zone X, but by the guidance document from DEP, it would qualify as a bank. The slope of that ground, I mean, is at 6-to-1 in that area, so it still is very flat. And you know, as I said before, it does look like it's on all fill material, which is densely compacted and, you know, is virtually impervious. So, you know, that's what we have on that. The structure itself extends 6.5 feet out from the existing. It's once again pretty insignificant in the big scheme of things. And underneath that, it's supported by a sonotube, 4 sonotubes, and a 2-foot extension. So we tried to minimize as much of the excavation in the foundation placement. We tried to push it back as far as we could and cantilevered up the deck as much as we could to minimize any impact into the that resource area.
Thank you. I'll start with Jim with questions.
No, I really couldn't hear much.
Can't hear Jim either.
No.
You couldn't hear.
We had a tough time with your audio. It cut in and out frequently. But I think we got it that it was already disturbed packed soil anyway. So, but Alyssa, any questions?
Yeah, it is going to be much bigger. It's going from 6.5 feet to 14 feet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And, you know, it is a huge piece of property right there. I'm not quite sure I mean, it sounds to me, if what Bill was saying is that when the house was built or the porch was built, they had excavated dirt and they basically placed it under the porch. Is this correct?
That's the way it looked to me on my site inspection, yeah, when I evaluated the property.
Okay, and then the pavers that are going underneath the deck, are those, are they going to be using it? Is that just permeability, or I'm not quite understanding why they have these pavers underneath. I'm not quite sure.
Well, it's a walkout type of situation from the lower level. So there's a
I'm
patio.
sorry, Bill. I can't hear you.
I think if you back up a little bit, like I said, I think you're just a little too close to it.
How's that better?
A little better.
Do you want me to call in?
You could do that if that's better. I can hear you now.
All right. Well, I'll just step back from it and
There you go.
better now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did. But anyway, it's a walkout type of situation where the deck services the living area on the first floor, let's call it, and they walk out. There's a patio underneath that deck as it exists now. And continuing with that theme, we thought that they would want to just continue that out underneath the extended portion of the deck. So we proposed to place permeable pavers underneath that so that there wouldn't be a need to apply any fertilizers to lawn or.
So you'll be taking away the dirt that's there.
We'll taking away a portion of that dirt and placing material that will receive the runoff better than the material that is currently there, yes.
Anything else?
Not for me. David, do you have
Okay.
something?
Yeah, I do. Well, is there any way to engineer the deck to cantilever it so you don't, and just use the existing places where the old footings were? Is there any way to do that?
I think the architect did look at doing that, and I don't believe it was determined that the stability could be met by just putting bracing from the footings out to the 6-foot outside edge of the deck. I think that's what the outcome was of that evaluation. We did look at that. We looked into it, and once again, it's 200 square feet. It's not very significant.
It's pretty
At
big.
all. I mean, and I suppose if you wanted us to forego the pavers underneath the patio, that would be fine. But we were kind of thinking that a recharge element may be more favorable than a landscape element at that location.
I have no other comments other than that.
Okay. Ron, any questions?
No, I just got put back in, so I didn't get to hear any of what just happened on this last one. So
Okay.
I won't make
Carol?
any comments.
No questions.
So the idea is expanding the deck from 6.5 feet to 14 feet, putting pavers underneath it to better control the water drip and whatever that is, as opposed to putting some soil and grass underneath it. All the work would be done in the 30-foot no activity zone, but Bill is saying that it's already been disturbed by placement of dirt during the house construction. Is that what I understand?
Yes.
Is there anybody on the line that would like to comment on this project, for or against it? I'm hearing none.
Have they already started this porch, Bill? They had a lot of work going on.
The porch work has not started. There is other work going on the property, yes.
Okay.
On the house, that is.
Can you take a comment?
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm a direct neighbor, but, and I'm not sure if my comment is valid since I'm also the architect. But, I just want to reinforce Bill's comments that the work is very, very minimal in terms of disturbing the soil or the existing conditions. And just to be a bit more precise, the extension in terms of the location of the sonotubes is only 7 feet from the existing deck. So it's really quite minimal. And if I were not the architect, I would still support it. Oh, and by the way, my name's Emmanuel Daskalakis, sorry.
Thank you.
Move to close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing from Melissa,
Second.
second from Jim. All in favor, Jim?
Aye.
Alyssa?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes, the hearing is closed.
Hmm.
David, -2, right?
3.
It would be a -3 in this case, if that's what the commission voted.
Okay, so someone like to make a motion?
Mm-hmm. Want somebody else.
I don't have,
Motion to approve?
out of necessity, I will make that motion for -3.
David did. David Hall just did, Sandy.
Okay, I have that motion from David.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Jim. I have, okay, the vote, Jim,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David,
No.
She said no.
No.
Can you take the dog? I'm trying to listen.
what was David's response?
No.
No.
And Sandy, I'm going to say yes. So it's 310.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he say no?
Yeah, that's what I wonder.
Oh,
So
well, I-
it's passed, and before your work is done, please, Bill, make sure you get everything you need from Mr. Bichette.
Muted or no? I think they can hear
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
We have another notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. Public hearing will be held on Wednesday, August 19th, 2020 at 6:30 PM on the notice of intent for 50 Winship Ave Realty Trust, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass., to raise an existing single-family dwelling and construct new single-family dwelling, driveway, walkway, associated utilities, site grading, located on Assessor's Map 22, Lot C, 50 Winship Ave, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Is there anybody here for this project?
Yes, this is Brian Grady, GAF.
Hey, Brian. Mr. Bichette, your turn.
Okay. Okay, so the project site is at 50 Winship Ave, and the project involves the demolition of an existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling, garage, driveway, and septic system in the buffer zone to a coastal bank. A 30 by 40 foot dwelling is to be removed, and a new 34 by 82 foot dwelling with an attached 28 by 32 foot garage is proposed in the same general area. And this is approximately 50 feet from the top of the coastal bank. Proposed decks and a 3-season room are proposed closer to the coastal bank, but still outside the 30-foot no activity zone. A new driveway is proposed with a porous pavement surface. So I did have a question about that. Maybe Brian can explain that in a moment. Leaching pits are proposed to handle roof runoff from the new dwelling as shown on the plan. Also included is to install utility lines from the dwelling to the existing dock structure. Any excess material generated from the project would be removed from the site. Hay bales and silt fence would be installed between the work and the coastal bank. And this would be pretty close to the 30-foot no activity zone line, except where access would be needed for the utility line work and to fill in some old cesspools that are within that 30-foot no activity zone. So those are to be filled in and left in place. We did get a DEP file number for this project, so I would recommend the approval of the project with the standard conditions and of course, including the erosion control with the hay bales and silt fence for this project.
Thank you, Brian. Anything to add?
Nothing to add right now. If you have any questions, the only thing I'll point out is those utilities down to the pier. We show them on this plan, but they have been previously approved under a prior filing.
Okay. Dave, you had a question for Brian?
Yeah, it was just to maybe explain a little bit about the porous pavement and, you know, what that's all about.
Well, it's just an option to take care of the runoff from the driveway. We tossed around whether to do infiltration strips off the edge of the driveway or grade everything to catch basins with underground dry wells. But this property is owned by Terry Edwards, TL Edwards, their construction company. So they're quite familiar with paving and porous pavement installation. So that was the choice that he made for this site.
Okay, no further questions.
Okay, okay, Jim,
No, I have nothing.
Alyssa,
Yeah, I do. Number one, when I went there, the only thing that has any markings are 5 very huge trees. The neighbor states that those trees will not be taken down. Is that so?
I'm not sure of the exact trees that you're talking
There
about.
are 5 trees with banded trees in the yard, in between the 2 houses. And they're
again, I
hard-
don't know the specific trees you're talking about.
Okay.
There's quite a few trees that will need to
Right,
come
and
down.
I'm concerned if they're going to be taken down. They're really pretty big. I had a question as far as it's in the buffer zone. David, you said a little difference in size. This is a foundation, I would guess, and it's going, am I incorrect? It's going from a house that was 30 by 40 to a house that's 30 by 84?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a much bigger house, definitely.
Yeah, that's not quite what I think you said at the beginning in your remarks. It's going to be a huge house. Is it going to be sitting on the same, I mean, it's not on the foundation that's there, obviously.
No, it's going to have to be a completely new foundation. So let me just show you by scrolling the plan what the existing house looks like. That's the existing house.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's
And
pretty
this-
close.
And this is
Hang
the
there.
new house.
I would go back up, Dave. Alyssa, where were the trees you were talking about? It shows on the first, yes.
There's the house. The trees are in this area. There
don't
are 5 of them, and then there's one over here.
Talking about this side.
No.
This side.
Talking one on this side. This is the road side. This is the ocean side. And there are probably 4 of them here, and they have a band around them. You know, a marking band. I didn't know if they were marked to save or marked to take out. And the neighbor didn't know either. But he said, gee, I would think they're to be saved.
Well, if
Yeah.
if they're close to the property line as you're indicating, then there should be no reason for them to come out. Correct.
I would guess not, but I guess I'd like to know that they're not going to be saved. They're big, huge, beautiful trees.
Are they around the boat shed that's by the road?
What?
Are they by the shed that's by the road?
No, they're right in between the 2 houses.
Well, again, if they're close to the property line, as Dave's indicating with his pointer, then there should be no reason for them.
Right, they're not on, they do not, according to the neighbor, they do not mark the property line. I mean, you know, I just don't know. And where you're doing something that's twice as long, more than twice as long, I didn't know if they were going to be in the way of this new building.
Well, it's a bigger footprint, correct, but we've managed to keep all the activities outside the 30-foot activity zone from the coastal bank. And those trees along the property line, I'm not sure, abandoned, I mean, probably indicates that they're to remain.
I'm hoping, yeah.
You could see that the center of the lot, obviously any trees located in the center of the lot will have to be cleared out of the way, but trees along the perimeter should be able to remain.
There's one, you know, maybe along the perimeter on the, I guess it would be the east side or whatever, but
It'll
I
be
don't know.
to the top of the plan page, I guess, is where you're referring to.
I mean, there are going to be a number of trees that are going to have to come out to accomplish that footprint in the new driveway expansion and so forth.
Wouldn't you like to see what trees are going to be taken?
Well, in order to develop a property, we do need to clear trees and
I do
disturb
understand,
soil,
of course.
but we're maintaining any of that activity outside of your 30-foot no disturb zone, other than, as Dave mentioned, filling for existing cesspools and structures like that.
Yeah, so unfortunately, if they're proposing to take trees and they're outside of the no activity zone, you know, it's not something technically that we can require them to leave.
Okay. David,
No comments.
I have none, but I'll ask Carol, anything?
No,
Ron,
No comments.
is there anybody on the line that'd like to comment on this project, for or against it? I'm hearing none. Someone like to close the hearing, please?
A motion to close.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second,
I have a second from Jim. Jim,
I'm good with it.
Alyssa,
Sure.
David,
Yes.
Sandy, yes, the hearing is closed. What would you like to do?
Move to approve with -2, right, Dave?
Nope, standard
No, this-
conditions.
Oh,
Yeah, it
standard
should be-
conditions, right.
Yeah,
okay.
this would be an order of conditions with the standard conditions and for the proper erosion control to be put in.
Right, okay, correct, all right.
Okay, that's that motion.
Second,
Second from Jim. All in favor? Jim,
yes.
Alyssa,
Doesn't matter. Keep going, Sandy. Let me think about it.
David,
Yes.
Sandy, yes.
Hey, Sandy, I don't know if you realize it, but you do have Mary Taggart on the line as well.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Mary, did you hear the discussion?
Yes, I did. I'm not sure
You want-
if I'm in there or not.
Oh, no, you're in there.
Okay,
Do you want to vote on the motion?
I think I'd vote for it.
Okay, so we're 500. Standard conditions have been approved, and Brian, please see Dave before any work starts on this, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Right. Next.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, August 19th, 2020 at 6:30 PM on the notice of intent for Roy Sherrill and Sean Folsom, care of JC Engineering, Inc., 2854 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, Mass. 02538. To upgrade a septic system located on Assessor's Map 124, lots 612, 943, and 944, 4 Park Circle, East Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody on the line to speak for this project?
Good evening, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering.
Okay, Brad. Mr. Bichette, your turn.
Okay, yeah, so as we heard, this site is at 4 Park Circle, and this project involves upgrading a septic system at this site in the buffer zone to White Island Pond. The existing system is to be replaced with a new nitrogen-reducing Title V septic system, and the leach field, as is proposed, is approximately 60 feet from the edge of the pond. There is some minor grade work to be done around the leach field. The only question I had was in terms of locating this further from the pond if possible. So I was just curious, there's another side of the property and I didn't know if that was looked at in terms of utilizing that space instead of being closer to the pond. We did get a DEP file number for this project. And my only other question is, has this been reviewed and approved by the Board of Health at this point?
Yes, the approval letter just got mailed to us from the Board of Health today. So that's all been looked at. In regards to the location, I tried to pick the area that was easiest to construct without removing a number of existing concrete retaining walls, patios, and an area that's approximately 2 to 3 feet lower in grade than where the current system is. There's also a driveway that comes off of, I guess we'll call it Park Circle, that would get closer to the pond. That's to the north of this property. This property has a pond across the street on 2 sides. So we are trying to eliminate the need to replumb the basement and remove a number of concrete retaining walls. We are obviously installing an alternative septic system, which would be superior to what's there today.
Okay, yeah, so if the Board of Health's already approved it, then they have looked at this and they're comfortable with the location. So with that, I would recommend the approval of the project with the standard order of conditions and also the requirement to install the erosion control. The erosion control, is there a way to keep that on the project side of the site versus across the street?
We would like to utilize abutting property for access, but we haven't discussed that with the neighbor yet. There's a hydrant that basically bisects the property line between the two. So access is either to the south of the hydrant or to the north of the hydrant. I was trying to keep the erosion control on the pond side of the street, which is a gravel road, as opposed to the property side, due to trying to maintain access for equipment to get onto the lot. Again, would prefer to work through the property, but I mean through the abutter property, but it's anticipated that some of the brush and trees in that southern corner is going to need to be removed to get access into the site.
Okay, no, that's fine. I understand the reason. I was just looking at that also in terms of, is the White Island Pond folks okay with putting all that on the other side of the road there on what might be their property?
Yeah, I could look into that. It obviously would be temporary in nature, just to stop any sediment. Most likely it'll stop sediment from the street and not sediment from the property from going closer to the pond. I can look at installing it on the opposite side of the street, just at the bottom of the bank. Although I believe that need one spot for space to allow a vehicle to get in.
Right, okay. No further questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. Questions from the board? Mary?
Well, I think I would go along with David, making sure it was on the other side so there's less chance of any sediment.
Okay. Jim?
I have nothing.
Alyssa?
No comment.
David?
No questions.
Carol?
No questions.
Ron?
Yeah, I just had one question. Is this an upgrade to an existing system that's having issues, or is this just being upgraded to be more efficient, I guess?
It was inspected, and the leaching facility is past its capacity, so it's failed.
Okay. That was it.
Okay.
Close the
question-
hearing. Can I do
No,
that?
not yet. Not yet. Brad, so the erosion control is on the east side of this Park Ave. If you put it on the west side of Park Ave, it's going to make it harder for access for the construction vehicles. Is that my understanding?
Well, I have no issue putting it on the west side. I
Okay.
just hope the commission would allow a vehicle with brake in that erosion control when a vehicle needs to access the property or a machine.
Well, how about hay bales on both sides of Park Ave? So you can always have an opening for your vehicles because you already have hay bales on the east side. And the west side allows you to better control the runoff from the construction site as opposed to the dirt road.
We could look at setting maybe a small section of hay bales down gradient of where the opening would be on the west side, so that it provides that temporary protection and provides most of the erosion control on the east side. Again, if we can negotiate access through the neighboring lot, then the hay bales will be all entirely on the west side, and I can probably save some vegetation that's in that southern corner of the property.
Okay. Then we'll just have to wait to see what you have for access, but other than that, is there anybody in line that'd like to speak for or against this project? I'm hearing none. Now you can, Alyssa.
Now I will say that we should close the discussion.
Okay, I have a second from Jim. All in favor, Mary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes,
David,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, the hearing is closed.
I move to accept the project with hay bales on both sides of Park Avenue.
Standard order of conditions.
If they cannot get access from the neighbor.
Okay, standard order of conditions plus hay bales.
Yes.
Second.
I have a second. I think David seconded that. All in favor, Mary,
Aye.
Jim,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, approved. Brad, before you start anything, see Mr. Bichette, please.
Thank you. He'll inspect the hay bales prior to construction so we can,
Yes,
if he has issues, we'll
Okay.
correct that.
Yeah, that inspection is standard.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, August 19th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for Loanne LaCoy, care of Lockwood Architects, P.O. Box 95, Onset, Mass., to construct a freestanding garage located on Assessor's Map 7B2, Lot 25, 15 Cleveland Way, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is anybody here for this project?
Yes, Bill Lockwood from Lockwood Architects, and I believe Lone LaCoy is also on the line somewhere.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Mr. Bichette, your turn.
Okay, so the site is at 15 Cleveland Way in the Indian Mound Beach area, and the project involves the construction of a garage in the buffer zone to a coastal bank at this site. A 20 by 20 foot garage is proposed within the 30-foot no activity zone to the coastal bank. The lot is a very small lot and is sloped very steeply from the road down to the beach. The proposed garage would be between the street and the house, but is within the 30-foot no activity zone. This project does have to go in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals for probably a few different issues. I am told that an application has been submitted to them, but this has not been heard by the zoning board as of yet. The proposed garage would have a concrete slab foundation. We did not get a DEP file number yet for this project, so I would have to recommend a continuance of the hearing. But I also would be recommending against it because the whole thing is within the 30-foot no activity zone to the coastal bank.
Bill, any comments?
Well, firstly, I'd say that there are two coastal bank lines on the property. And the one which we are talking about is where the flood zone changes from a V zone to an X zone. The entire course of construction of this project is in the X zone and landward of the existing house. The primary coastal bank line is on the other side of the house, the easterly side, and that's where it comes up quite steeply, and then it plateaus and then continues on up, and it actually continues on up in a fairly even fashion, even beyond the flood designation line. This is not untilled tilled ground. Currently, they are parking on that area and will continue to do so. And the garage will be built in that general area. The client would like to live here on a permanent basis, lives out of town at the current time, and would like the garage there in order to do so. But the floor of the garage will be in fact 6 feet above the flood elevation. And we'll try to infiltrate the runoff on the site to the best of our ability. And that's about it.
Okay, we have no DEP, so we will continue, but I'll ask the board members. Mary, any questions?
Oh, just what plan they might have of any runoff into the coastal bank from this construction.
We'll have siltation barriers, so because there's a house there, we only have a short amount to contain, a short amount of area to protect, and we'll be able to control the runoff there, I think.
Okay.
Jim?
No, I have nothing.
Alyssa?
I do. 2 questions. Are you going to have to get some fill to level off your garage slab?
Yes, there will probably be fill involved in that.
Yeah.
And that will, after the foundation is put in, that be filled inside the foundation.
So, and then the other question with that is, what are you doing to negate the flow of water now that it won't be permeable because it'll be a concrete slab, so that the neighbor does not, in a big storm, get inundated with water, which happens more than one thinks.
Well, we can use permeable paving on the driveway. Right now it's paved with hardscape, and we can also infiltrate from the gutters.
Yeah, I mean, the gutters on the garage as well as the permeable fill on what is their driveway now.
Right.
Okay, then I have another question, and that is, is there something else going on here, 2nd story enclosed porch? It doesn't say it's existing now. Is that something?
That is existing now. Renovation of the existing structure, which is in reasonably poor shape, is contemplated. In fact, the ground floor is currently being renovated as a by right project.
As a by right project, what does that mean?
Means it's with just a straight building permit project.
Oh.
It's an interior renovation. So.
Okay. And this breezeway, what is going to be the breezeway's, what's it going to be made of? Is that another stone situation, permeability, etc.?
It'll have be roofed, so
Okay.
That in that sense it will not be the paving underneath could be permeable.
Okay, thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
David?
No comments this time, no.
Carol?
No comment.
Ron?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. Is this garage going to be attached to the existing property?
Only by the breezeway.
Okay, only by the breezeway. And David, did you say that the entire project was within the 30-foot buffer zone?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my biggest concerns is erosion controls being so close to the banks and being completely in the buffer zone. I mean, so those would just be my concerns, I guess.
Okay. Dave Fichette, there's a top of a secondary coastal bank, and then I have a 30-foot coastal bank offset Did I hear Bill say that there were two coastal banks? Did I miss it?
No, that's
Please
correct.
explain that to me.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's not unusual for that to be the circumstance, because you could have rolling terrain that all of which exists below the flood elevation line. So you could have more than one coastal bank as the terrain gets steeper, then flattens out, and then gets steep again. If all of that is occurring below the flood zone line, then you could have multiple coastal banks on a property. As far as any of the regulations go, there's really no distinction between what might be someone labeling on the plan as a primary coastal bank or a secondary coastal bank. A coastal bank is a coastal bank, and it's looked at in the same way under the regs, regardless of whether you're saying it's a primary one or a secondary one. So even though you have two coastal banks here, you still have the 30-foot no activity zone, even off of the one that's furthest up near the street.
So theoretically, this house shouldn't have been built if we had a 30-foot no work zone.
Well, the house has been there for ages.
But I'm saying if the house would not have been built if we had a 30-foot no work zone at the time it was constructed.
Yeah. Well, now based on the regulations, yeah, it probably would not have been approved at all in the first place. That's right.
And why does zoning get involved? Bill?
Because it would be set back to the street and lot coverage.
Oh. They haven't had their hearing yet.
No.
We have not, no.
So the only thing they could do is deny the work because they can't get a setback or give an exemption for the setback.
Those would be the choices, yeah. They could either deny it or they could give a special permit or a variance, yes.
Okay, Alyssa?
Is there any way, I mean, right now they have this gravel driveway and then they have a garage. I mean, is there, I don't know, I think you're asking a lot of a very small space.
We're working the site quite hard. I will grant you that.
Can we put this off until it goes to zoning?
Well, no, we have to wait for the DEP to first thing, and then we can say whether or not we want to wait for zoning rule.
All right.
Bill, are you on the agenda yet for zoning?
We have filed, but I have not heard a date as of yet.
Okay. All right. So is there
just for the commission's information on a thing like this. So we can't really, let's say, make a decision based on what zoning does or doesn't do. We're obviously looking at any project strictly under the wetlands laws. So, you can't necessarily say you aren't going to make a decision until the zoning board makes a decision, is what I'm trying to get at.
But this is going to be continued anyway, right?
Yes.
So we can talk more next time about it, or is that
correct?
Yes. Is there anybody on the line that'd like to speak for or against this project? We are going to continue it though.
Yeah, this is Lon McCoy. I know the lot, I didn't realize this, a lot of this issue when I bought the lot, and we're trying to make it work for a permanent home. Understanding, there's some limitation and things like that. We have, this trying to make it work. And we are removing a structure, that's really, I find unusable on the waterfront, and trying to put, toward where useful space, where we're currently using anyway. And the property need a lot of work. Even the area there that we're currently using, the retaining walls and whatnot are badly in need of repair and drainage and all that. So I feel like, whatever we do and whatever consideration you guys put forth, that we could do to make it happen, I think it's going to be a lot better than what's here now. I hate to try to patch it up and not, make this my permanent home and, get rid of it. But you know, it's, again, it's just a lot of work there. The whole thing would have to be tear out, you know, structurally to make drainage and everything work better. Right now, just everything is kind of falling apart. And I think, you know, whatever work here that we would, you know, try to do our best to do whatever needed, you know, was within the environment, the guidelines and whatnot. But if there's any way to make this happen, you know, that would be great. Because like I said, we're trying to minimize what we have to do on the front, removing the structure, you know, the gray area that you see there that was put in place, and, you know, kind of reducing the footprint on the front and just putting usable space on the back and you know.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, I had to disconnect my
I
phone.
move that we postpone the hearing.
So we continue to September 2nd. Is that what your motion is?
Yes, it is.
Second,
Second by Jim. All in favor, Mary,
Yes.
Jim,
yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Sandy, yes, we're continued until September 2.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Next, please.
Sure, notice of public hearing. I believe I have the right person here. If I don't, you'll let me know. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protective Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held on Wednesday, August 19th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for Richard and Kim McNair, care of Bremen Surveying and Associates LLC, 61 Allen Street, Marion, Mass, to construct a garage, driveway, and associated utilities located on Assessor's Map 132, Lot MR4, 34 Mayflower Ridge Drive, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody here for this project? Please
Yes,
identify yourself.
Yes, Rob Brayman from Brayman Survey and Associates.
Thank you. Mr.
Yeah, so the project site is at 34 Mayflower Ridge Drive, and the project involves the construction of a garage in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and also within a coastal flood zone. A 26 by 30 foot garage is proposed, and this would be approximately 40 feet from the edge of the wetland and within flood zone AE elevation 14. The site is relatively flat in this area. There's no grade changes proposed. The only question I really had was whether or not dewatering would be needed in order to construct the foundation for this, because it is very close to the elevation of the wetlands. So if that were the case, then I would just recommend conditions for dewatering as part of the order of conditions. Hay bales and silt fence would be installed between the work and the resource area. We did get a DEP file number for the project, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions and the added conditions for dewatering, as I said, if necessary, and that no materials be stored within the 30-foot no activity zone.
Okay, Rob, anything to add?
No, that would be fine. Thank you.
Do you think it's going to need dewatering?
I'm not exactly sure at this moment.
Okay,
It possibly could, depending on the time of year that the garage got put in.
okay, questions from the board. Mary,
No question.
Jim,
No questions.
Alyssa.
Yes, I have one question.
Yes.
What are the utilities you're putting in?
Right now, there could be an electric service and possibly gas in the future.
Okay. No plumbing. Are you putting in plumbing?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
No, there's no plumbing. As
Thank
far
you.
as like toilets, no,
Toilets, running water,
no.
Okay, thank you.
David,
No questions.
Sandy. My only comment, I have an office and I don't have any water in it, so it's inconvenient but doable. Okay, Carol, any questions?
No.
Ron,
No questions at this time.
anybody on the line that'd like to speak for or against this project? Hearing none, I'd take a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
And a second by Jim, all in favor, Mary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, the hearing is closed.
Move to approve the project using hay bales and dewatering if necessary.
In standard order of conditions.
Always.
I have that motion.
Second.
I have a second by David, all in favor, Mary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, it's approved. Rob, don't do anything until you get a hold of Mr. Bichette, okay?
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, August 19th, my mother's birthday, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for Richard Murphy, 9 Glenview Circle, East Wareham, Massachusetts, 02538, to construct additions and decks located on Assessor's Map 119, Lot G7, 9 Glenview Circle, East Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak for this particular project?
Yep, Rick Murphy and Donna Murphy.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hi. Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
Yeah, so the site is at 9 Glenview Circle, and the project involves the construction of additions and decks to the existing dwelling and garage at the site. And there's also some tree removal in the buffer zone to Glen Charlie Pond that's proposed. A wraparound addition, approximately 8 feet wide, generally is proposed on the two sides and on the water side of the dwelling. New decks would be proposed between the addition towards the water as well. And the extent of that work would go right up to an existing concrete retaining wall, which is approximately 30 feet to the edge of the pond. Also proposed is a 7 by 22 foot addition to the garage, but this is outside the buffer zone to the wetland. It's also proposed to remove several trees on the site. Some are in the buffer zone and some are outside of the buffer zone. All of those trees have been identified, and I didn't have a problem with those that were marked. There is also a substantial dock system at this site that is shown on the plan but was never approved by the commission. This dock structure far exceeds what we would have approved based on our criteria. So I would have to recommend that structure be removed, except for the straight part that comes off of the land, and that this would be something that should be included as what is being requested through this application. The wraparound section should be removed. As far as the project, erosion control would be placed between the work and the resource area. That should be required, even though it's not necessarily shown on the plan. We did get a DEP file number for this project. So as far as the project itself goes, I didn't have any problem with what they're proposing. It's all outside the 30-foot no activity zone. But as I said, I do have an issue with the dock that I think the commission needs to address.
Okay, Richard, Donna, any comments?
Can you just, I'm sorry, could you
where can we find the information on what the specifications are for the docks that you can get? I mean, there was an existing dock on the property beforehand, which is why we didn't think that, we needed to go through any special permitting or anything. But I tried looking online, but I wasn't able to find anything as far as the size or dimensions or what have you.
Sure. So that is in the town's wetland bylaw, and you can find that on the town website under the Conservation Commission page, or just within the general town bylaws, which I think are listed within the town clerk's page. But on the Conservation Commission page, just the bylaw itself is there, and it's easier to get at because it's a standalone item.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
Dave, just for public, what is the size of the dock? What are we permitting? What size? How many square feet? I can't remember.
Yeah, so typically we have a maximum of a 40-foot length from the shore, no more than 4 feet wide. And in a straight configuration, not with T's or decks and whatnot off the end. So typically, as I said, it's can only be 4 foot wide, no more than 40 feet out from the shore is what the standard is.
Okay, Donna, does that help?
Generally.
It does. There was an existing dock when we moved in here, and it was in an L shape. So if you'd went and looked at what's there, and we bought this in October, and the first winter we had a really good ice, and it destroyed the dock. So I rebuilt it with a floating dock. It's a plastic material that floats, and we floated in the wintertime. And I added the second section only because of the waves, and because I have my grandkids down here swimming, and you really can't be in the water on a weekend with the way the boats come by so close. And so we built this basically to give them a safe place for them to swim.
You can't tell by looking at them, or maybe you can because I don't know how to read these maps, but our property basically is on the corner of a cove, and the jet skis go in that cove 70 miles an hour, and then they just drive like wild people.
They come by blind. I have buoys out so that they're forced to go further out, because we've almost been hit several times if you're out there floating. I mean, just people screaming out of that cove. They can't see you till it's too late.
I mean, the pond has public access apparently, and there's a boat ramp that, anybody that cares to can pay a fee and get in, and put their boat in the water. From what we can see, there's no specifications as to, hosing off your boat before you put it in or hosing it off when you come out. It's just a boat ramp, and, so who knows what's coming into the pond itself. That does concern us considerably. I'm not even sure if you folks have any information on any of that. I have talked to the Board of Health about the quality of the pond. They seem to think everything's fine. It hasn't been closed to our knowledge for swimming or what have you, but it's just a concern of ours, I guess.
Questions from the board. I'll start with Mary.
No question at this time.
Jim.
No questions.
Alyssa.
Not yet.
David.
So Dave, show us if they were to have the dock, it would just be that straight part out there that could be 40 feet long, correct? That's it, right?
Right. This stretch right here would be permittable.
Uh-huh.
It's just this whole other thing here because it just takes up so much space, which is generally, that's not per se owned by these folks. It's open to anybody that wants to get at the pond. And therefore, when you have these large structures, you're restricting access. Plus, you have more area that's potentially shading out or altering any habitat that might exist underneath that surface area.
So just curious, who has jurisdiction over these waters? The state, basically?
Well, there's both the town and the state, yes.
Well, for what it's worth, no one's ever complained. And it's been in there for
I don't know, probably 8 years.
8 years,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, it's in one of these spots that unless you go behind the house, you'd never see it,
No, but I mean, we don't have people yelling at us or kayakers, or nobody has had any issue. If I take that off, I can build that into a raft. What's the rafts? It's obviously not going to be safe for my grandkids. it might even just we might just have to make a decision that we're not going to do this. We'll sell. I don't know what the right answer is, but it's not safe in the summer with the boats going by. You may as well be on the ocean. So.
Right. No, I understand your concerns and so forth. Just in terms of what we have with our standards, it just doesn't conform to that. And just because you have certain conditions doesn't mean people can kind of just do whatever they want out there. So I understand your issues and your concerns, but my role is to try to get these projects to conform to the standards that we have and point that out to the commission so that they can evaluate what they're looking
Sure.
at.
Okay, Carol?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that I can attest to, because I live in Shangri-La, the issue with people on the pond really going absolutely wild, especially with the jet ski.
That's the main culprit.
And there's big
Yeah.
boats. There's some really big boats that have come in this year.
Yeah, there are some big boats there, and it's a shallow pond. It's not that deep.
No.
So, when they're kicking up wakes, I can certainly understand why someone would have constructed it this way, but if it isn't allowed by the bylaws, then
Not allowed.
even as a temporary, where it's a floating dock that can be removed, does that change the regulation with that?
No, it would not.
No, okay.
Who are we impeding?
Anybody that wants to come close to your shoreline.
You can come all the way close to the shoreline as you want. We've had people walk over the dock that are fly fishing.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah. It hasn't stopped anybody that's, we've had people that have, we've got, as we said, we've got some buoys out as well. We've had people cross over the buoys. They do what they want to do. I guess, as my husband said, changing the configuration of that is going to take what is now a very safe little area for swimming. It just won't exist anymore.
Right. Ron, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, because obviously the schematic doesn't give a scale. How far over does that U shape come, David?
We don't have measurements of it, but it goes out about 40 feet. It might be 43 feet out from where it attaches to a wood platform that was part of the original dock. And then it comes over another 25 feet, maybe. I'd have to go.
Yeah, you can see the scale on the bottom of the plan, and that,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see. No, I see it now. Yeah. I can definitely understand your concern. I have 4 children. I have one on the way, so I understand the safety of the children. But at the same time, there are rules and bylaws that are in place. And if an exception's made for one, then it would have to be a precedent that would be set for exceptions in the future. Maybe that's a discussion for another day, but based on the way it's written, I would look at it to say, I understand the concern, but to David's point, we have guidelines for a reason, and to go and change it because it's already existing, I don't know if that really makes sense.
So basically you're saying there's no permitting process that we can go through.
I couldn't. David would be able to answer that better than I would, but that would probably be a question for him.
Yeah, no. So again, in terms of what the bylaw states, it has certain standards and maximums in terms of length and width and so forth. And if someone proposes something that's beyond that, then it's not going to get approved because it doesn't meet the standard. Otherwise, you'd have people putting out 85-foot docks out there if they wanted to.
Well, I guess it's just a little disconcerting because we don't really feel like it bothers anybody, and there's definitely properties on this pond that have had large additions put on that are probably within 20 feet of the water. We tried to obey all the laws. We didn't realize that this was not, since it was an existing structure, we didn't realize there was a problem with putting in what we put in because it was basically kind of a T shape, L shape. I don't
Yeah,
know
it was an L
what-
shape.
What you want to
Yeah,
call it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and whether or not what was there previously was legal or not is also another question. So that we obviously don't know. We won't know at this point anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
Is there anybody on the line that would like to speak for or against this project?
Dave, I have another question for you though. Is it in the bylaws, does it say 40 feet straight in length, or does it have to be, or could it be 40 feet total in length?
It says 40 feet in total length with a 4-foot width maximum. So I
So
guess
they could make it U-shaped and just make it 40 feet long, right? Or C-shaped or whatever that is, right? Is that
well, the
correct?
shape they have there now, if you total it all up, it's probably like 80 feet.
Yeah, but if they wanted to modify that and make it a 40-foot total length, they could do it, right?
They could modify it to that degree, yes.
Okay.
Oh,
So you still could have that.
Can they keep the L? That's, I think, the question, David.
Yeah, that's my question.
Not in the length and configuration that it's currently in.
No, if they kept the L with an L and they kept it 40 feet, could they make a little shorter one? It's for the younger kids. They stay in closer, whatever.
Do it 20 feet out and 20 feet over, they could do that, right?
Yeah, so they have to, put that on a plan and submit that to the commission for them to review, for you folks to review. And if you were comfortable with that, then yes.
They could do that legally. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Richard, it's Sandy. I have a question for you. Do you put any boats or any water equipment off the dock?
We do. I have a 17-foot a center console boat that's on the right side of the dock.
If you were dock, would you be only 20 feet out into the water and then take a 90-degree turn for another 20 feet? Do you have enough water for your boat at that time? Or do you need 40 feet?
No, it will hit the bottom. Yeah, it's too shallow. It needs to be out further than 20, than what that would be.
Could it be tied up on the outside of the L?
No, then that's
Now
not big, yeah.
the waves are too big. It wouldn't
Okay.
survive.
Well, we are thinking of some alternatives for you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
What about if you put it on the inside of the L? Is the water deep enough there? If you did the L shape at 20 and 20, could you pull it in on the inside of the L?
I don't know. I'd have to go out and measure the depth of the water. It's a slow, gradual drop, and then it gets deep quick, but doesn't drop very fast.
No, it doesn't.
20 feet
No, it
ashore.
doesn't.
It's possible, but if I have the boat broadside, it's going to get destroyed. Even with the protection of the dock, if it's just an L, the waves still come through. We get, 1.5 feet easily.
Yeah.
Rollers that come through.
So, not that this is, I don't know, maybe this is your jurisdiction, I'm not sure, but, if we take part of this apart, we put a raft out, I guess I'm having trouble seeing
I don't know if the raft would do much.
the difference.
protection,
Well, but
yeah.
still, it would afford a little bit more buffer at least. I'm sure you must have similar restrictions on rafts as well.
Actually, free-floating rafts that are not connected to the shore are something that's permitted by the harbor master. So we don't typically deal with those sorts of things. We're dealing strictly with structures that are built off of the shore.
So your question needs to be sent to Natural Resources.
Okay. Is that
Harbor
the
Master.
Harbor Master?
Harbor
Okay.
master.
Yes, Gary Buckman. Do you want?
What if we free float the whole thing and make it a dock? A raft, and disconnect it from the shore. Is that
I
doable?
think that's sort of going against why the reasoning for things.
Okay, well,
Then you can have somebody else come in and do another one, which is 50 feet by 30 feet and floating it off. I think
Yeah.
it goes to the harbor master.
Yeah.
We'd like to help, but I think you have to, what does the law mean? Why do we have it?
if you would like to, take some time to look into a reconfiguration and then come back to the next meeting and then discuss it, that's certainly okay. That's something the commission may want to consider, but like I said, currently the way it exists, it just does not meet the standards.
Can we approve other things on the plan? So they don't have to come back with everything and have everything on the table?
Well, we can approve their project, but then we'd have to basically eliminate any other configuration other than the straight out dock. If they want to have the time to entertain possibly modifying the dock to something that's legal, then we could give them that time. If they don't want to do that and they just want to get the main project of the house approved, then the commission can approve that and just condition that the non-legal parts of the dock have to be removed. So those are the two options right now.
What do you do?
What am I gonna do?
How long do we have to make a decision on going forward with paying for the permits if you approve us?
What do you mean paying for the
So
permits?
say we say we'll take the dock apart, except for the piece going straight out, right? And then as part of the conditions, and you approve the project, how long do I have before I have to make a decision if I'm actually going to do the project?
Do which part of the project?
The whole
The
project.
whole project, the build out of the addition and the deck.
Well,
I
just because we approve a project doesn't mean you have to do it. You can decide you don't want to do it at all. If you don't
No,
like
no,
it.
but is there a time frame that I'm held to start the project?
No,
No.
no. So when we issue an approval, it's good for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So if you didn't want to start it this year and you wanted to do it next year, then you would still have 2 years left on your permit.
Hence, there was a limit. I mean, whatever. Jesus.
But there's also now a violation, right, Dave?
Well, as it currently exists, yes.
Yes.
Ooh, that was tricky.
All right.
So I'm sorry, the other thing that you proposed to us is we come back next week with a different configuration, possibly of doing
Right.
a different dock. I mean, we're going to be able to get back on your calendar that quickly?
It's September 2nd is our next meeting.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that's not that far. All right.
That's 2 weeks from tonight.
We can continue until September 2nd and we can see where you stand. How about that?
Fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
Okay, so I need a motion to continue until September 2nd.
I move to continue to September 2nd.
Second.
I have a second by David. All in favor, Mary?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Alyssa?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes, September 2nd is continued.
Okay, thank you for your suggestions.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
Have a nice evening.
You too.
Boy, the sun certainly made this room dark. Wait
Wow.
a second.
Oh, get out.
Hearings. Repurpose properties. Dave, you want to talk? Is there anybody here for that project?
Yeah,
5
Brian.
Cliff Ave.
Brian Wallace with JC Engineering.
Okay. Mr. Bichette, you have some comments on this?
Yep, I'm just gonna pull that plan up here.
It's a pretty plan.
Okay, so this is the project site at 5 Cliff Ave. And this project involves the construction of a single-family house within a coastal flood zone at this site. At previous meetings, we had continued this hearing because there was an existing stormwater drainage pipe that runs through the middle of the property that is shown basically right in this area here. That was not shown on the original plan, but it was pointed out that it existed, and so they had to do some research to locate it, which they have. So because of the house location and the existing location of the drainage pipe, they've submitted a revised plan to put in a reconfigured drainage system, which would carry the drainage and new piping in this area here through the property to a new manhole and then connect back into the existing drainage system, which ultimately discharges out to a salt marsh. As far as the house project goes, again, when this was submitted originally, it was just for the house being constructed in a flood zone. And so under an RDA, I thought that was appropriate. Now, because of the discovery of this drainage system and putting in this new drainage system, to me, that's a little more than what I think should be looked at under an RDA, because you are now directly connecting into a drainage system that dumps out to the salt marsh and whatnot, and the commission may want to have certain conditions on the project. As far as the project in general, I'm fine with the project. It's just that I think this should be addressed now under a notice of intent so that the commission can issue an order of conditions and put whatever conditions that they feel are necessary for this project. So my recommendation is going to be to issue a positive determination so that this comes back in front of us as a notice of intent and gives the commission the ability to place conditions on this project. Again, I'm not opposed to any of the project as a whole. It's just in terms of how it's been submitted originally, because it wasn't going to take into account any drainage work initially, that would have been appropriate. But now, because of this discovery and the changes, I would recommend a positive determination for this.
Brian, any comments?
Yeah, I understand Dave's position on that. However, we would respectfully disagree that the proposed drainage work would necessitate an order of conditions. First, this file, like you said, it was filed as an RDA, as it involves work within the land subject to coastal storm flowage, the AE Zone 15. However, there are no other resource areas within 400 feet, and the discharge to the salt marsh is over 500 feet away from the site as well. On that end, there are no performance standards pertaining to the land subject to storm, coastal storm flowage. So, given that, the work is on a municipal drainage system as well. This is a system, owned and maintained by the town. There will be oversight and inspections from the municipal maintenance department to ensure that the work meets their standards as well. Dave Menard, the director, he has reviewed the plans and he had expressed that they will sign off on them come time for the building permit when the project reaches that stage. So, without the additional conditions that could be imposed, we just don't feel that this work will have any impact really to the resource areas beyond the land that is subject to the coastal storm flowage. So we don't believe that a notice of intent would really be necessary in this case.
Okay. Now, any questions from the board? I'm going Mary.
Not at this time.
Jim?
No.
Alyssa?
I just want to know from David, so if you are changing this over to a notice of intent, what does that do to the project?
Well, basically what would happen is they would have to resubmit a notice of intent application for the project, and then have a public hearing regarding the notice of intent application. And that, as I said, would give the commission the ability to put conditions on the project in terms of how the drainage work was done, what level of inspections would be required for that, how it would be maintained, making sure that the downstream end of the drainage system is functioning properly so that if you put in all this new drainage and it connects to a clogged up system, then it's really not going to work anyway. So there's a few different issues here that I think need to be conditioned. You might have issues, again, of dewatering because the depth at which these things have to be put down into the ground, you could end up with having conditions where you have to pump water out of holes, and where is that going to go, and things of that nature. So again, I'm not opposed to the project. It's just, I think the commission should have better conditioning power over it than what you're going to have under this application.
David.
So Dave, under this application, we can't, and we have no right to do anything really other than just the proposal of the building and everything like that, right? Is that what you're saying?
Right. So if you issue a negative determination, you're basically signing off on it and stating that the project does not need any further review, and there's no order of conditions that's recorded. There's no certificate of compliance process, anything like that.
So how much more work is it for them to do the NOI? I mean, how much more expensive for it, or just a matter of doing some papers for an hour or so?
Well, I can't speak to what that might cost. I don't know the answer to that. I'm simply looking at it in terms of how I would recommend this be reviewed and permitted by the commission.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Carol.
No questions.
Ron.
I mean, no questions, more of just, I guess what, to David's point, I guess it's more about, giving us the ability to do some due diligence to make sure that, no issues come up after this project starts that, could, impact any resource areas.
There is because it would have to go to notice of intent, there would have.
Andy, we can't hear you.
More expensive than a DA, but can't hear me.
Now we can.
Any better?
Yes.
You can now, yes.
There is additional cost because it would have to be refiled. But my question is, are the order of conditions that would we be placing on this property significant enough to require a notice of intent versus an RDA? And David has said that he's concerned that without conditions, we cannot say how this extra stormwater drain on the property is managed. Is that basically it, Dave?
Yes.
Then you have a dewatering for digging these trenches for the stormwater drain. Will there be a dewatering for the house? Is it having a cellar?
No, there is no cellar.
Okay. So the only trenches that will be dug will be the trenches for the stormwater, correct?
That and the the gas would require a trench as well. And it's overhead wires for electric, so that wouldn't require any trenching. And again, I would like to just reiterate, this is a municipal system. The work we're proposing has to be approved, inspected, and ultimately inspected by the municipal maintenance department. What we're just doing is simply replacing this 12-inch concrete pipe with 15-inch HDPE piping. So it will only improve the functionality of the drainage system as a whole in this area. And what happens downstream from that would either way, whether it's disapproved under this RDA or approved under a notice of intent, it's out of our control anyway. So in terms of what additional conditions would be needed, it's not really clear.
So regardless of whether an RDA or notice of intent is done, municipal maintenance would have the say over the stormwater drainage, correct?
That is correct. Yes, so it'll be ultimately approved by them. Like I said, at the building permit stage, once the project reaches that.
Can I, wow. Let's see. Mr. Bichette, anything else to say? I know you would prefer a notice of intent that gives us more control over the project.
Yeah, I think, like I said, from looking at it in terms of during construction and also, while construction is going on, municipal maintenance isn't necessarily going to be focused on whether or not something is going downstream of the system into the system that outlets into the marsh during construction. Well, we would be, since that's an issue that we would be concerned with. So, again, my recommendation is to require the notice of intent. Yes, it might cost them a little bit more money, but in the grand scheme of the total project, I don't think it's going to be that significant, but it would afford the commission to have the level of oversight that they should have on something like this.
So that would mean the hay bales and the erosion control that we don't have a say over under an RDA.
Right, well, that's part of it. And I don't necessarily think you would need hay bales per se, but you might want to put conditions that during construction of this new section, that the old section is somehow quarantined or contained so that materials can't inadvertently go down there that shouldn't be. Anything of that nature, you would have the ability to condition, whereas under the RDA, you really don't.
All right.
Move to close the hearing. Is
You
that?
ready to close the hearing? Is there anybody on the line that wants to speak for or against this project? Okay, I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a second by Jim. All in favor, Mary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Sandy. The hearing is closed.
Come on, guys. Go Dave.
I have a motion to go with Dave's recommendations and require them to do an NOI, I guess.
Second.
We have a motion for a positive determination. And I heard a second from Alyssa. All in favor, Mary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Sandy, no.
I'm not sure about that.
So it is a 4-1-0 for positive determination. So Brian, I guess you're going to need a notice of intent to bring the project back.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, next one is,
Thank you.
yes, Dwayne Nicolo. Anybody here for that project?
I'm Chairman Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering.
Okay,
Do you want me to start?
no, wait a second, I gotta find my paperwork. I thought I had it all in line.
By the way, Madam Chairman, 2-1 Bruins.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So now they could rest a little bit before they continue with their Knicks
A
opponent.
little ray of sunshine in the sports world.
Wait. Didn't the Red Sox also win? Oh, I'm sorry. They won.
The Red Sox won.
Yeah, they won. 1 out of 10 games. Not bad. Okay, Bob, Mr. Bichette, would you like to talk to this rural Ave project, please?
Yes. So this project site is at 1 Laurel Ave in the Hamilton Beach area, and the project involves the reconstruction of a deck and also of a stone groin. And this is on a coastal bank within a coastal beach and within land containing shellfish and within land under the ocean and also within a coastal flood zone. So it's proposed to reconstruct a stone groin that was licensed years ago, but has been in disrepair for a number of years at this point. In its current condition, it has broken down into a more loose assemblage of stones and is no longer a solid uniform structure as it's being proposed to be. The proposal would be to reconstruct the groin to be approximately 96 feet long out from the seawall and approximately 12 to 18 feet wide, varying in width, and approximately 3.5 feet in height. So this would require importing more stone to the site and likely require machines on the beach to accomplish this project. So we had continued this hearing in the past for a couple of reasons, to see about some potential plan revisions, and also we were waiting for comments from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries. We did get comments from the Division of Marine Fisheries, and they did have some recommendations. One thing they noted was that the mean low water line is not shown on the plan. And they also had some other comments about that the groin should be reconstructed within the same footprint and work should be done from the upland as much as possible. And that care should be taken working near any salt marsh. So we did get those comments. At the previous meeting, it was also my recommendation that the reconstruction of the groin portion of the project should not be permitted because this thing hasn't been in a condition to function in terms of what they're proposing it to do in quite some number of years, and rebuilding it to that degree would create a solid barrier for any sediment transport to be able to go down to the beach to the east. So I did have that concern and brought that up at the previous meeting. Another part of the project is to reconstruct an existing deck with a slightly different layout than currently exists. I didn't necessarily have a problem with rebuilding the deck. My only recommendation on that part of it was to try to get the deck set up so that it would be basically entirely over the stone revetment and not extending out into the beach, which currently it does with a couple of the supports. So we do have a DEP file number for this project, and you know, Bob, I'm sure can explain where things stand with talking to contractors and whatnot, but those are still my recommendations, that the reconstruction of the groin would have a negative impact on the down gradient beaches and therefore should not be permitted as proposed. It's being proposed to be 12 to 18 feet wide, which to me is huge. I don't really understand the need for something that significant for a single family home. But anyway, I'll let Bob make some comments and we can discuss it from there.
Bob, please. Yep.
Sure. So we did have a discussion on all of these issues at the initial hearing. And so I think I made it pretty clear that the dimensions of the stone groin are the same exact dimensions from the 1996 license. We're not asking for anything more. We're asking to, repair this groin per the original dimensions. So, that's, and I provided that plan. A maintenance of a stone groin is something that's needed a lot less frequently, than say maintenance of the deck. So in 1996, when they received their 30-year permit to construct and maintain.
Could I ask a quick question, Bob, before you go on with that? When whoever got this 30-year license, they were getting a license for a structure that had not been given a license previously, or had a license.
I think you're right, David. The state was encouraging people with unlicensed existing groins and jetties. The state was encouraging people to do the engineering work and to get them licensed so that they could be legally maintained and repaired.
Right.
And it wasn't until 5 years ago that the Nicolaus started seeing their beach go away. It's not something that you can, spend $5,000 a year on, bring in 5 or 10 stones. So it's been fine for 25 years. 5 years ago, it started, obviously the structural integrity is not there. And so between the deck and the groin, now is the time to do it as all one project. And in order to maintain the revetment, which is all above mean high water, and as we discussed at the first public hearing, without that stone groin, you're putting the revetment at risk, their beach access, the stairs, the deck. So we feel strongly that we have a right to repair and maintain that groin per the Chapter 91 license.
Yeah, the point of my question was just simply to point out that when they got a license for this, whenever they did, say in 96, to point out to the commission that the structure wasn't in its form as you're proposing it to be in 96, and in between then and now, it somehow deteriorated to the point that it currently is. The point is that it's been...
Those are the dimensions that were approved by DEP.
Right. I'm not saying that wasn't the case.
By the commission at the time.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is someone was getting a license for a structure because it hadn't been licensed, which was, as Bob mentioned, was something that the state was trying to get people on board with, because there were a lot of structures that just simply weren't technically legal because they didn't have licenses. But I'm just pointing it out to say to the commission that even at that time, it's probably likely that this thing, if you look at aerial pictures, was not in the shape that they're proposing it to be in right now.
And be that as it may, they received approval, and thankfully they didn't have to expend money up until this point. That's not a bad thing. We were asked to provide some construction methodology, which was the delay in this hearing so that Mr. Nicolau could meet with several contractors, met with 3 contractors. We amended our plan to include notes 4, 5, and 6. Those notes are somewhat relevant to the Division of Marine Fisheries letter. So the excavator would be brought in by water. The stone would be brought in from the land, from the upper portion of the property. But the excavator would be brought in from the water and unloaded using ramps. It would, when not in use, it would be stored above mean high water, which there's plenty of room to do that. We think it's about a 2 to 3 day job, needing to be coordinated with days when the period of low tide is during the middle of the day. The work on the stone groin will absolutely be performed during low tide. And we've, based on a couple of the estimates, we estimate 150 tons of stone would need to be brought in to do the work. We don't believe that the legal repair and restoration of the groin is going to negatively impact downstream properties. We want to make sure that we maintain the toe of this revetment and the structural integrity for the deck and the stairs. And we're just trying to get it permitted at the time when it's needed. To say that you should have done it 10 or 15 years ago when it wasn't necessary, I think is arbitrary.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I never made that statement that this is something that should have been done 10 years ago. I'd never said that. I was just simply pointing out in terms of how this was ultimately permitted by the state regarding the Chapter 91 license. And it also just needs to be clarified for the commission is that just because somebody obtains a Chapter 91 license for a structure and some years later it needs to be rebuilt or reconstructed does not mean the commission's obligated to grant a permit to do that. If the commission feels that the reconstruction of whatever structure was originally permitted is going to have a negative impact on wetland resource areas by today's standards, then you're in no way obligated to allow that work to go forward under the wetlands laws. So just that needs to be understood by the commission members.
Questions from the board, Mary?
Has there been some recent change in this area that's caused the deterioration, or is just normal wear and tear?
Well, about 5 years ago, they noticed a loss of sand through the stone groin. The stairs, the concrete stairs were becoming more exposed. And it just, nature showed the need to repair the groin to put it back to its purpose, which was to hold sand in that area so that the revetment and the stairs and the beach access wouldn't just get washed away.
Okay, thank you.
Jim?
No, that sounded good.
Alyssa?
Oh, thanks.
David?
Dave, do you have a air photograph of the whole area that you can pull up, or is that not possible right now?
No, that's possible. Hold on a second.
Be interesting to see the whole area and how it impacts that.
Okay. While he's doing that, Bob, is there space for high tide on that beach to store the machine?
Well, there is, and again, it needs to be managed with the tide cycle, and I would certainly encourage a period of, non-lunar shallow tide. but you can see where the mean high water line is on the plan and to the revetment, that in particular close to the groin where there, is more sand and it's furthest away from the salt marsh, that would, the machine would be overnighted for just a couple of nights.
Okay.
Again.
Now, there was a comment Dave made about the footing of the stairs. Did you change that on the latest plan?
No, we did not. So there's two existing, 12-inch wooden pilings that are going to be removed. The deck right now actually sticks out farther from the beach than what the reconstructed deck would be. We just need two helical supports closer to the revetment to support the end of that deck. And then the rest of it can safely be supported on land and a few pilings on the revetment. But the structural engineer recommended highly against supporting the entire structure on those stones. They're not anchored. It's a gravity wall with a 1-to-1 or steeper slope. And so it's, in a large storm, it wouldn't be a safe situation to try to fully support the deck on the stone revetment.
Okay.
So this right here is the stone groin that we are discussing.
Thanks for getting that, Dave. So the beaches down Longshore Drift are going to be starved, right? Basically, is that what will happen? Of sand?
Well, what will happen is if right now there is some sand getting through this because it's sort of a loose, it's not solid anymore, as you can see from that detail. Once you make it solid, the sand is going to get trapped on this side over a period of time until such time that it fills to entrapment, meaning it's full and it has a chance then to overflow and then make its way around. So for some period of time, if this is allowed to be constructed the way it's proposed, then yes, the downdrift areas will not see sediment flow
So,
as it currently does.
so the people who live on 1 and 3 and 5 are going to have a problem, right?
You're gonna have a rocky beach.
No, I would say no, sir.
Why not? Aren't they going to get more erosion there because there's not going to be sand being put?
Well, they're certainly not going to get any more erosion. They'd have the protection of the groin. They may not get sand in and sand out. If that groin goes away, none of those people are going to have sand, including 1A Laurel Ave, but it will still all end up at the end. Forget the name of the
Dave,
beach.
can you show the big beach at the end?
So the big beach at the end is always going to get sand.
They're going to get more and more. Yeah.
Right. But it's
Yeah.
going to go right by all of those homes, and you're going to basically negatively impact the Warrels, the Nicolaus. It's going to risk undermining the toe of their revetment. Everyone else has, what I'm told, poured concrete walls with footings. If they basically are told that they can't touch that groin and let nature take its course, that's a severe risk for their property, where they currently have permission at the state level to do what we're asking you to approve.
And the letter we have from the Division of Marine Fisheries dated August 17th recommends the repair of the groin.
Well, no, it recommends certain protocols to minimize any impacts to the fisheries.
It says
So
recommends groin repair occur during periods of low water. Oh, so it doesn't say
Correct.
whether or not we should or should not. It just
Right.
says do it during low water.
Correct. Do the work from the upland as much as possible. Special take, the salt marsh fortunately is on the south side of the
But
property.
it does say that the groin should be reconstructed within the same footprint, whether or not we approve it, but it has to be, if it's done, it's in the same footprint. So they don't say it has to be done. They don't
Correct.
say it recommends it has to be done. They just saying, if you're
No,
going to
they-
do it, here are your conditions. Okay.
I'm sure they would prefer that it doesn't get done, but that's not their role. They're looking to guide the commission on conditions that would protect the resource areas.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, I think I went through everybody. Any other questions?
No.
Anybody on the line wants to speak for or against this project?
Yes, this is Dwayne Nicolau.
Yes.
Okay. Just a few comments, and I want to thank everybody for their time tonight. Both the engineers that came in, or the contractors came in, have said the same thing. If you're looking at the picture that we're looking at now, we've been here since 1959. The entire Hamilton Beach area was built when the Army Corps of Engineers dredged the channel and threw sand up on the beach. So it's basically just going back to the way it is. Even the sand that you see up in the top right-hand corner didn't exist when I was a child. That was, the water used to come up to all the beaches. Basically where the purple line is, the sand used to come there, and now it's just going back to its natural state. And both contractors have said, because of the eelgrass that is to the left of our property, that any of the sand that's going from left to right is not even from Swiss Beach, is bypassing our beach and our little beach. And we probably won't even see any buildup unless we get a storm that directly pushes the sand back up there over the years, and to rebuild what little we have left. So the erosion that's going off to the right of the picture here is just going back to its natural state. And if you really look at the whole scheme of things, the tiny little jetty, and we're really just more concerned about building it up more towards the wall. So the seawall that we rebuilt back in after Hurricane Bob for $40,000 maintains its integrity and maintains the property. And we can maintain the footing for the stairs that from our deck access that we can get down there. And one last thing, that Hamilton Beach owns all the beach. We own the lot in front that we're trying to protect and pay taxes on that lot. And so that's really my only comments. We're not trying to disturb anything. We're just trying to maintain the integrity of the wall and the footings for the deck. And like I said, we've had estimates as high as 115,000. Now we've got it down to about 75,000. And again, getting to the point of trying to maintain this is something like, this is a major expense that we're incurring to try to maintain. I mean, the integrity of the wall, and the next thing it's the house and everything. And that's basically what we're trying to do. We're not trying to, none of our neighbors are all happy that we're improving it. And there's been in Hamilton Beach, I was at the meeting, they were notified. Not one person at the meeting brought up anything about, any objections to what we're trying to get done here. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else comment? If not, what would you like done?
Before anything further happens, Sandy, I would like to ask Bob to explain the methodology specifically of how the rock is going to be transported if this gets approved to the location, and then how's the machinery going to operate? Is all of this going to be barged in, the stone and the machine? How is that going to work?
No, so thank you. So only the machine would be barged in and ramped onto the beach. So there would be two machines. So there'll be one down on the beach to do the stonework and to install the helical piles for the deck. There's just two of them. And so then the stone would be trucked in. You can see from the aerial where the driveway is. And so the stone will be trucked in. 150 tons is about six truckloads.
And that way I won't bother you.
So there'll be a machine up top to drop the stone down below, and the machine down below on the beach would come in from a barge. So, but all the stone would come in from the roadway onto the property, and it would be about 6 10-wheeler loads is 150 tons, we were told by the contractor. And 2 to 3 days managed with the tides.
Can I ask one other quick question? In terms of this structure, you're saying you need to bring in 150 tons to repair this, what was there. Where did the 150 tons of stone go that used to make this jetty up?
Well, I had absolutely no knowledge of what this jetty looked like when it was licensed in 1996. And I think you're right. We discussed earlier that it was an amnesty license,
Add it to your.
or what have you. But all I can say is the dimensions that are on our plan are the same dimensions as the license plan that was issued in 1996. And it's good until 2025, 2026.
If I could interject one quick question, one quick comment. So in speaking to the two contractors that we're really focused in on, their point for bringing in what might be a little bit of additional stone is so we don't have to keep reincurring this expense. And then if we can put some larger stones down the center of the jetty and take the existing stones and build it around it, it'll then become more of a permanent structure than just trying to bring in a few stones and moving what we have here. And then 10 years from now, we're back to another $75,000 bill trying to replace it. They're trying to make it, both contractors have explained to me that this is what needs to be done so we don't have to continue to repair it.
Dave, does that answer your question?
Not really. It just means again, it kind of goes back to, we don't know what this thing ever was at one point in time. Just because it was licensed as a certain width and distance doesn't mean it was ever built that way. So I was just bringing that issue up because obviously if you're repairing something, you're usually working mostly with what's there. If you're rebuilding it, which is really what this is, that's more than just repairing.
Well, if they go 96 feet long with a 12 by 18 wide. That's what's permitted, right? So we have no idea what it existed prior to 1996.
Correct, nor should it matter.
No, I'm just saying,
Yes,
we are looking at trying to rebuild the structure with the dimensions that we were offered, with 3.5 foot high, correct?
yes,
That's all
ma'am.
we're looking for, is to reconstruct it in the dimensions we were given. All right. All right. Anybody have any other questions? If you're comfortable, I'll take a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close. Well, I don't know that what else we can talk about. We've talked around and around.
Okay, so I have a
I'd
motion
make
to
a
close.
motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Second by Jim. All in favor. Mary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, the hearing is closed.
No.
All right, someone want to take a crack at what we've just closed the hearing on, what we're going to approve?
All right, so I make a motion that we approve this project, staying within the confines of what was approved previously on the contract. I'd also like to say that the stonework won't be brought in before 9 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, because the trucks come in, they're very loud, and they just drop the stone. That's it.
I'd like to add the idea that the machine is stored on the beach at high tide. Work is done during low tide. Stone work is done from a machine on the upland.
Mhm.
Anything else that we talked about that we want to add to the standard conditions? Anybody else? Did I forget anything? Did Alyssa and I forget anything?
Sandy, I have a question. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm a little bit out of order, I know. When the stonework comes in these, 12-wheelers, 18-wheelers, whatever they are, and they drop the stone,
They're not going to, they'll put the stone on the upland, and a machine will
Right,
take it
but
from the
they
upland.
but they drop it. I mean, it.
Okay, Bob, will
Never
machine,
mind. That's
okay,
whatever.
Bob, will the trucks come in and just dump their load up in the parking lot area?
Or down here, wherever they.
Down where?
Right, yeah, the parking lot area.
It would have to be in the parking lot area, then the machine will take it from the parking lot area over the edge of the stone embankment, and then a machine on the.
Yeah, they're gonna bring it over to the area where the groin is, and then drop it down from one machine to the other. I don't know if Dwayne, if they got any more specific than that with you at your meetings. Dwayne, are you still there?
I am, and no, that's the stone we brought in, and just to address the noise issue, we plan on doing this after hurricane season, when every house that you see on the picture is all uninhabited during the winter time. And no, and we're spending great expense it's going to be going across the lawn. They're going to be ripping up the turf. The estimates to put the grass back in and their sprinkler system back in and everything. So it'll be brought in, dropped down, and the one machine on the beach will do the building at low tide.
Alyssa, does that answer your question?
It's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion. And I think, who seconded it?
Come on, fess up, somebody.
Seconded.
All
Oh,
right.
David seconded. Okay. All in favor? Mary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David.
I say yes, but I think they have to protect their property. I realize. I just want to make this comment that I think it doesn't address a specific issue. But I think Massachusetts in general has to come up with a better approach of not armoring their beach lines. It's in the long run, it's not going to work, but it will work temporarily, maybe for another 50 years. But down the road, it won't. But I'll say yes. Do it.
Okay. Sandy, yes. So Bob, Dwayne, you got your project, and I understand that you're looking at the time frame and no hurricanes and off season, et cetera. But before you do anything, make sure you get your paperwork from Mr. Bichette. But you're done.
Yes, well,
Okay.
thank you. We do need to coordinate with Chapter 91 people at DEP, so it
Yeah.
won't be a fast start.
Okay.
So thank you again.
Now we have the 3 solar projects. Dave, can we take them all at once, or you want to continue them? Stacy, you're here. I didn't think you'd still be here after this hour. Okay, there we are. 27 Charge Pond Road.
Stacy, we can't hear you.
Nope.
No,
There-
still no sound.
After all this time, now we can't hear her. Oh, she's calling in. Well, she's calling in. Dave, did you finish walking Charge Pond Road?
I did finish walking Charge Pond Road, yes. So we have reviewed those wetland boundaries. Let's see. Yes, I have reviewed the wetland boundaries on that particular site, and there were a number of changes made. And so they are in the process of getting a revised plan in place to us for the revised wetland line. Try it now, Stacy. No, still can't hear you. Okay, I just buzzed you in on your other line there.
All right, is that better?
There we
Yes.
go.
Okay, apologies, everyone. Of course, I got a new webcam thinking that it would be a better setup, and it's not working apparently. All right, sorry, Dave, I didn't want to interrupt. I think your update would be similar to mine, but I can jump in if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I was just mentioning that they're in the process of getting the plan revised to reflect the changes in the wetland line and whatnot. So I think that's where we stand, and I still have not seen a comment from the town engineer yet on this project as well.
We did receive town peer review comments on 27 Charge Pond.
Okay.
So with this revision addressing the wetland line changes, we'll also address Charlie's comments. He's not going to issue comment letters on the Tohonet sites until we do a round of revisions. So you'll likely, once you finish the delineation review, which I understand you made some good progress on yesterday, and might be going back out next week. Once that's done and we locate those, then Tohonet will be the next up for revisions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, at what point do you want to talk about the trash you found in the wetlands, Dave?
Well, might as well bring that up now, and I'm sure Stacy's already well aware of this. But yeah, this site at 27 Charge Pond, a portion of this site at one point in the past was used as a landfill. So there's piles of debris and metal and tires and whatnot in the wetland on this site. And I would have been recommending, or am going to recommend, that needs to be cleaned up. If it would be my recommendation that there be a condition that be cleaned up if the commission approves this project.
Yep, and that is near, just for the commission's reference, up in the northern portion of the site near WFX 45-ish. And we included a photo of it in the notice of intent filing as well, because we had noted it during our site visits and had coordinated with the team and with the landowner. So I think they're anticipating that the commission would have such a condition as part of a permit to clean up that debris that's in the wetland.
Okay. Was there any discussion about, Dave, can you bring up the picture with the solar panels on it?
Yep, bringing that
Where
up.
the,
right-
where the two probable, why can't I think anymore tonight? Two probable,
Potential vernal pools.
thank you, that's what I'm talking about. It is getting.
At which site? At the one
27?
At 27.
Yeah, because there were solar panels coming down between the two potential vernal pools. Because one of the questions I have, Stacy, is that with all the trees being cut in order to make room for the solar panels, what type of temperature change are you going to make within what forest remains around the 100-foot of the pools? Does that make sense? Am I going to have a temperature impact by removing all those trees that will dry up my vernal pools?
Right. That I can't imagine. So between those two vernal pools that you're looking at, we're actually maintaining 100 feet off of both of those vernal pools. So
Yes.
that little part that necks down between them is 100 feet away from the vernal pools, so that they'll have the forest. And then in terms of drying, we modeled the vernal pools and the isolated wetlands as their own design points so that we could ensure that in the post-construction condition, the same amount of water would be getting to the pools.
Okay.
So we tried to, undertake a very careful design with consideration of the pools.
I do think that is a concern, honestly, because when you're going to clear, 30 to 40, 50 acres or whatever of trees and put in solar panels, you are going to have, in my opinion, you're going to have a definite increase in temperature on that underlying ground.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Within the solar field itself, I can't imagine that there wouldn't be, because it's this, under the panels themselves, maybe not because of some shading. But if you're standing in the sunny spots that are now no longer in a wooded forest, but in terms of the 100-foot forested area off of those wetlands, I guess I haven't read any science or literature about, temperature changes extending into the woods, so I can't answer either way. But I would be surprised if there was a temper change that extended, into the buffer zone.
How big is the buffer zone?
100 feet off of the wetlands.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here would be 100-foot separation in this area.
That's from the road to the wetlands, right, or not?
That's from the limit of clearing. So for any of the wetlands that we saw evidence that they were functioning as potential vernal pools, we maintained a 100-foot limit of work to those wetlands. So essentially, for those particular wetlands, no work. We tried to stay out of the commission's jurisdiction and respect what could be interpreted as a 100-foot no touch from vernal pools in your bylaw.
Okay. So we're waiting for you. Mr. Rowley has done engineering comments, correct?
Yep, he's issued us comments on 27 charge, and based on those and Dave's delineation review, we're in the process of revising these plans. So you'll see a revised set from us.
So without any other discussion, why don't we just continue this until you think you'll be done by September 2nd?
I think we'd like to continue to September 2nd, and then if for some reason we're not ready, we can request a continuance, but hopefully we will be.
Does anybody here want to talk to this project online? If not, Mary, any questions?
I was just wondering, with all the disturbance in that area, does it disturb the flow for the vernal pool so that they would be damaged in some way because of the difference of a flow?
In our stormwater evaluation, we modeled each vernal pool as its own design point, or made the watersheds account for that, so that we would not be changing the flows to those wetlands.
Thank you.
Jim? Alyssa?
No comment.
David?
Oh, I mean, Dave, you scrolled down. Is there a diagram of what it looked like before our comments from before? Looks like they've done a significant change. It looks much better, I think.
No, this is the same plan that we've had. Yeah, we
Okay.
haven't, this is not revised yet.
Okay, maybe okay, never mind then. No comments.
Carol?
No comment.
Ron?
No comments.
I have none, so I'll take a motion to continue until September 2nd.
So move.
A
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor, Mary?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Alyssa?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes, we'll continue it until 9/2.
Thank you.
Now, I gather the next two are going to be continued because we're still waiting for other things.
Yes, so the two Tahonets, I think, Dave, it sounded like you made good progress on actually both of them, really. But I know there's still some review that needs to be done. So as soon as that's done, then we'll start revising those sites as needed as well, and also incorporating some feedback from the planning board process.
Okay, if there's no questions from the board, I make a motion, we continue this until, you want to, September 2nd?
I think the same, yep.
Someone like to make that motion?
Almost.
Second.
I have and a second from David. All in favor, Mary?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Alyssa? David?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes, we're continued until 9/2 for those two projects. And Stacy, thank you for hanging in there.
Oh, it's okay. I was on vacation, so I caught up on emails. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Okay, it's 9:00 at night. What more? We have some hearings. Emmanuel D.
Miranda.
That's okay.
Yeah, so we did get a request to continue this hearing to the next meeting for September 2nd.
Okay, I need a motion to continue it until 9/2.
To see if there's anybody online for this.
Oh, anybody was here for this project? I'm hearing none. We have a motion to continue. Mary?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Alyssa?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes, we're continued until 9/2. Bob Rigo?
I'm here.
Okay. So, okay, Mr. Dave, you want to talk to this one?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up
Why
some
did we
paperwork.
continue? Oh, we're waiting for National Heritage. Marine Fisheries, who are we waiting for? And Dave needs to walk the site. That was my last note.
Yeah, we were waiting for natural heritage, so I'll read the project in 1 second. I'm just going to pull the plan up here.
Okay. You know, maybe should a time limit on our meetings. It's 9:00.
Mhm.
Anybody need to take a powder room break?
How about you?
I've already done it.
Good.
You didn't notice. So the Red Sox won a game. Wow. home.
Okay, okay, here we go. Okay, so again, the project is 326 Glen Charlie Road. The project involves the construction of a single-family dwelling in the buffer zone to an inland bank along Glen Charlie Pond. The project is also within the estimated habitat of rare and endangered species. A 4-bedroom house with attached 2-car garage is proposed, and this is approximately 72 feet from the inland bank, actually 77 feet from the
77
inland
feet.
bank along the edge of the pond. The proposed limit of work is 30 feet from the inland bank, which would still result in some clearing down part of the sloped area. There is a very steep slope going from the top of the site down to the pond level. The 30-foot setback is mostly on the sloped land. And so I did have a question. I did go out to the site and I saw some green ribboning, but I wasn't sure if I was seeing trees that were ribboned that were actually the limit of work or whether those were something different. So Bob, when I was trying to email you earlier, my question was, there's that sort of cleared pathway that ultimately sort of ends up near this concrete bound over here. And there's some green flagging that sort of runs like off in this direction. And so I just wanted to make sure that that's what I was seeing as the limit of work, or is there flagging somewhere down in here that I wasn't really noticing?
Yeah, those green flags do represent the limit of work, and like you said, it's all kind of landward on the side, the red line of the 30-foot no touch. So there's no proposed clearing down the steeper part of the bank. And like you said, the bank basically exists. It's an inland bank that is very steep for up to the blue line to the bank. It's a 1-to-1 slope, if not greater. And then it gets a little flatter, probably to a 2-to-1 slope up to the 30-foot no touch, and then it kind of flattens off at that point into the site.
Okay, yeah, so that I just would like to somehow coordinate, because again, the flags I was seeing were on the house side of that path. Is that correct?
I don't have an exact location of the path, but they were along that 30-foot buffer line. They were outside of the 30-foot buffer, but if wherever they were hung, that's where the limit of clearing will be.
Okay, yeah, yeah, all right, then that's fine, and we'll have to go back out, I think, and just verify that we're both talking about the same thing.
Sure.
At some point down the road. So also proposed as part of the work are the utilities, the driveway, the sport court that you see, and the septic system. The driveway, septic system, and a good portion of the garage are all outside the buffer zone. As you can see, there is some significant grading work that would need to be done to accomplish the plan as it's proposed. We did get comments from Natural Heritage stating that this project will not adversely affect any endangered species habitat. We did get a DEP file number. So I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions and the added conditions for silt fence and hay bale for the erosion control, and for us to verify the limit of work line prior to construction.
Bob, any statement on this one?
Nope, they've got it all, I think, unless there's any questions.
Okay, for the board, Mary,
No question at this time.
Jim,
No questions.
Alyssa,
No question.
David,
No questions.
Carol,
Question.
Ron,
No questions.
Sandy, None. Is there anybody on the line that'd like to speak to this project? Not hearing anybody.
I move to close the discussion.
Second.
Okay, and I got a second from Jim. All in favor, Mary?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Alyssa?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Sandy? The hearing is closed.
I move
Someone want to take a standard conditions plus? You want to take it?
Sure, I move that we accept the project with standard conditions plus hay bales and silk fences to be checked by Dave prior to beginning. And I don't think there's anything else. Anything else, Dave?
No, I think
Approval of,
that covers,
approval of the limit of work before, approval of limit of work.
right.
Approval, yes, you're right.
That's the motion.
Second.
Second.
Second by David. He beat you, Jim.
I
All in favor, Mary?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Alyssa?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes. Okay, Bob, it's done. You
Thanks
and
very
Mr.
much.
Bichette work on this together.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. I have one quick question before parting. How long is it typically before the order of conditions is issued by the commission?
Probably sometime by the end of next week, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We legally have 21 days
Yep,
to issue it. Yeah.
Definitely know that timeline. Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, appreciate it.
All right. Next one is Glenn Perillo. Sorry,
Priolo.
Perillo.
Priolo.
Okay. And Bob, it's up to you again.
Yeah, I think Dave's probably gonna answer this, but he still needs to confirm the line. We have to go out there with a botanist and just get confirmation on some of the wetland flags, I think. So,
Yes. Yes. So we were looking to continue this till the next meeting.
Okay, I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm going to say, can I get a motion to continue?
So moved.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, Mary?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Alyssa?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes. And I should have asked if there's anybody in the line that wanted to speak to this project. Seeing none, we've continued the hearing until 9/2. The next one's Cabrera. Thank you, Bob.
We've also going to be continuing this hearing as well, but I would recommend continuing for a month to our meeting of September 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, anybody, before I ask for the road call, anybody online for this project? Okay, I have a motion and a second to continue. Mary?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Yes. Sandy? Yes. Alyssa?
Yes.
I'm tired. David?
Yes.
Okay, we're continued until the 16th. Okay, Mr. Bichette, we've got some cleanup work to do here.
Yes. Do you want me to go on to the extension?
Might as well.
Better.
Yes, so we got a request for an extension for a project at 20 Kennedy Street, which involves the construction of a single-family home. This project has been delayed for some financial reasons and also because of the whole COVID issue. So I'm recommending a one-year extension to the order. The project has not started yet.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I have that motion. I heard a second. All in favor of one-year extension, Mary?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Alyssa?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes, was one-year extension is approved. Okay.
Okay, so the next thing we have is enforcement orders, and we have the Cremisa Park Improvement Association in front of us to discuss a violation that occurred on their beach adjacent to, well, it's identified as 0 Marks Cove Road. And this involved the placement of large tarps over some marsh grass vegetation in an effort to basically smother out that grass area. So this was discovered, and the association was notified. They did remove the tarp within a day or two after discussing the issue with me. So that has been done, but they were asked to come into the meeting tonight to address this particular violation. And there was also some other work that involved the reconstruction or the placement of a small concrete stair at the end of the road, which was not reviewed by the commission. That part of the activity likely would have been something that we would have approved had it been submitted to us, but nevertheless, they did do some work there, again, without our approval. And obviously, the tarps on the marsh is not something that can be allowed. So anyway, they are on the line here, and so if they'd like to comment on where things stand or why that was done, you're welcome to do that now. Donna, I see you there. How you doing?
Good, good. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that, we didn't put the tops on the grass to smother the grass itself. It was to kill the ticks and the mosquitoes that were living in the grass. Because one of our neighbors and association members was bitten by a tick with what is it? Anaplasmosis, and was deathly sick. In fact, almost died from it. And so in the event of that, we wanted to cover that and kill those. Now, we didn't set out to kill any of the vegetation or any of the animals that live underneath that top. It was to kill those ticks, and we weren't gonna keep that on there for a extended amount of time. We were only keeping that on there till we were sure that they were killed, because that is on the main part of our beach, and we have young children and old people, and they're walking by that all the time. And this person, within 5 days, and that's the only place she goes, was bitten by one of those ticks. They're on the Cape this year. Deadly.
We all hate the ticks. I'm wondering, excuse me, Sandy.
Go
ahead. I'm wondering, who told you that covering the ticks with the tarp would kill them?
We just came up with that idea ourselves. We didn't know what else to do. We didn't want to put any, pesticides on there or anything, because we knew that wasn't right. So we were thinking, how are we going to eliminate this for the safety of our community? So that's how we came up with the idea. Yeah. We didn't hear from anybody or anything. We didn't know that it was really against the law. We were just trying to protect ourselves.
Jim, you want to? Yeah.
It actually worked.
Yeah, it did. It did. Well, we feel safer. We feel safer about it all. We do. And in fact, when the people are walking across the beach or walking by here, we feel confident that they're not going to get bit by one of those. And the ticks aren't just carrying Lyme disease now; they're carrying a lot of other diseases, and they're rare in the Cape. And we wasn't anywhere other than along the beach.
One thing I would say is, while you might think you're putting a dent in the tick population, I can tell you you're not. There's still going to be a bunch of ticks all around that area. They get transported by animals from one place to another. They can be windblown from one place to another. So you're just not going to eliminate the tick population by tarping over a chunk of marsh area, just so that's understood. I understand why you thought that might be a good idea, but I'm just letting you know that A, you can't put tarps on the marsh grass, and B, even if you could, it's not going to kill the tick population.
Well, in that section, just that section, it wasn't a big section of the it's only a 20 by 20 section.
Well,
just one
Well, the tarp has been removed.
There's plenty of grass to go around. Yeah, yeah. That was our main intent.
Okay.
Safety of our community, honestly. And you said it wasn't right and it was the wrong thing. We immediately removed that. We got the neighbors together and we immediately did that.
No, that's correct, and I appreciate that you guys took quick action on getting that squared away. So at this stage, my only thought to the commission would be that, they did still do that concrete work at the end of the street, which they should come in with an after the fact application just to kind of get that officially approved. So other than that, if the commission has any other questions or actions or questions, we can go over that.
Okay, but that was just a repair. It was and again with the safety, because that was very, very dangerous.
Right. Yeah, no, and I understand that. And like I said, I think that would have been something that the commission would have approved. It's just, given that you're right there on the beach, those sorts of activities do need formal approval from the commission.
I was unaware of that, Dave, really.
Sure. No, that's okay.
Very sorry, everybody.
Are you there, Sandy, or did you get locked up? We can't hear you.
Sorry, we have to approve the enforcement order
Yes.
with the $300 fine.
I'm questioning on the fine.
Well, I think we got to do it because other associations go ahead and do it. And what are you going to do? You don't want to give the association a fine, but.
Well, I kind of already issued the fine anyway.
Okay, there you go.
Then you took it out of our hands. Okay.
I need a motion
So move to accept the
enforcement order.
Is
that the right wording, Dave?
To ratify the enforcement order.
Ratify.
I meant to do
order.
that. I move to ratify the enforcement order.
Second.
I need it. All in favor, Mary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Sandy, yes. So one more document for us to sign. All right, next up, Ken Keegan,
Thank
enforcement
you.
order.
Excuse me,
Thank
Dave,
you.
what does that mean?
It just means that they just formally recognize the enforcement order that we sent to you, so that it's on file, and that you do need to come in to get that after the fact application for the concrete work. And we can talk about that, outside of the meeting.
Okay.
All
Well, I
right.
you had given us a warning because we would have followed your rules.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. The next enforcement order is the Ken Keegan enforcement order at 35 East Boulevard. That still has not been resolved, though it has been referred to town council. And I'm waiting to get a response from him in terms of the next action to take regarding where that stands. So I don't necessarily have anything new to report at the moment, other than the town attorney is looking into that for us and just has not responded to me yet on it.
Are we still in a $300 a day fine?
Yes.
And how many days has it been?
Well, it's been since June 24th, so that's a lot of
Okay.
days.
Yes.
Oh my God.
All right. So next one is Mr. Ferry.
Yeah, so in terms of that issue, he has contracted with JC Engineering, and I did speak with them as to where this stands right now. And they are in the process of developing the site plan so that they can file the notice of intent, but they just have not completed that at this point. But no further work has happened there.
Do you want to remove it from this list?
Yeah, I can take it off at this point until such
Okay.
time that we get the notice of intent. I just kept it on there in case he was going to show up or there was any new comments to make, but at this stage there isn't.
All right. Next,
I think that's it.
we did have an application from a,
You're cutting out again, Sandy.
is she online? Sorry. We had a Helen Bradbury put in an application. Is she on the line?
I don't see her. I don't hear.
Matter of fact, I don't think I sent her an invitation.
There you go.
Oh,
No,
same
I
on-
think you did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you did. I saw your email.
Then I think we asked, she was missing the letter, separate piece of paper outlining the reason she wants to serve. We're still missing that document.
Okay.
But is there anything else from anybody else other than the magic words, please?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question.
Sure.
David, going back to this 50 Winship Road, when are we expected to see some sort of delineation of the work to be done? I mean, the house that's going to be raised on that property, and there's going to be a house that's twice as long, according to the plan. And I guess I feel like I was really blown off with I have no idea why there are ribbons around these big, beautiful trees. Are they in the way of this gigantic house? I don't know. And the neighbor didn't know.
No, I understand that definitely. But I think part of the issue is that even if all of the trees were going to come down outside the 30-foot, we don't really have any.
I don't think they were all outside the 30-foot, David.
No, they were. Yeah.
Most of them were, but maybe that front one.
No, the
within
limit of
garden?
work. The limit of work means that they can't do any work within the 30 feet. So that was clearly shown. So no trees will be coming down within the 30-foot. But there could be quite a number of trees that are going to come down because, as you said, that new house, driveway, everything else is going to be huge compared to what's there. So I would definitely expect a lot of trees to have to come down, unfortunately.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah. I mean, I'd hope they try to preserve as many as they can, but wherever there's trees that are in the footprint, they're going to have to come down.
Well, there's one other thing. Was there front porch within that no work zone? On that plan?
No. I can show you the plan. Either when you come in to sign or whatever. But no, all the work was outside 30-foot.
It was. Okay.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right. That seems to be my killing point, that 30 feet.
Yeah, well, you know what? If we didn't have that, the work would be right down to the top of the beach is where it would be, So that's why I stress that and why it's good that we have such a thing, because otherwise, like I said, you'd see more and more projects going right to the limit,
Yeah. Well, Carol and Ron, I know you got appointed by the selectmen last night. You'll be sworn in tomorrow, but thank you for joining us. Is there anything you want to add or comment on tonight's meeting, other than it doesn't usually run this long?
Goodness, it's about an hour and a half past my bedtime.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I have to say is, it was very interesting to see, kind of, seemed to be a packed agenda. Very, I guess a very good first meeting, I would say, officially unofficial, or unofficially official, however you want to say it. But, I appreciate the opportunity to be part of the committee, and I'm excited to move forward and learn a lot more about what this town is looking to do, and what we can do as a committee to make sure that we're preserving a lot of our natural environment without affecting the natural elements while allowing people to move on and do things that they'd like to do.
I agree with everything that Ron just said.
And just to comment a little bit further, we already do have probably another 7 applications for new projects for the next meeting, not including whatever comes in tomorrow. So it's likely we're going to have a long agenda at the next meeting also.
I'll make sure I bring some coffee.
Yes.
That's an idea. Then I'll be up till midnight.
That's what we get paid the big bucks for.
All right. Anything from anybody else? Someone would like to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, second. All in favor, just wave your hand.
Yes.
Yes, everybody. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Dave, tomorrow